In entering the metaphysical framework of the Trinity, and thus its logical coherence, it is first necessary to clarify certain metaphysical terms. Now, I will focus on foundational categories, particularly the distinction between intrinsic and extrinsic properties, beginning with the concept of ousia, or essence, as it was developed in Greek philosophical and theological tradition. In classical metaphysics, ousia refers to the ontological substratum of a being, what something is in itself. It has multiple layers of meaning. 1. The intrinsic nature or essence of a being. 2. That which exists in itself without dependence on another, a self-subsisting being. 3. For Plato, it is being as opposed to mere becoming. 4. For the Stoics, it sometimes signifies the opposite of non-being. Depending on context, ousia can be translated as essence, being, substance, or reality. In Christian theology, however, ousia as applied to God is one and indivisible, because God's ontological nature is simplex, without parts or composition. We must note that when we say God's ousia is indivisible, we mean this in terms of qualitative identity, not numerical identity. As church fathers like Gregory of Nyssa and Athanasius affirmed, the divine essence cannot be partitioned. If it could, the substantial unity of God would collapse. Thus, the divine ousia is necessary, non-contingent, immutable, and ascitic, existing from itself. The ontological function of ousia must also be appreciated. It explains unity. The three hypostases are not ontologically divided instances of an essence, but distinct relations within a single undivided ousia. Failure to grasp this distinction leads many into category errors. For instance, asking, is the same essence in three instances, wrongly assumes instanceability. That question misunderstands ousia entirely. In philosophy, the instantiation of an essence typically refers to a universal, e.g. the essence of humanity, being manifested in multiple individuals. For example, the essence of humanity is instantiated in different human individuals, each sharing this essence while remaining a distinct entity. The ousia of God is a simple, indivisible, and uncreated nature. Therefore, it cannot be instantiated in the same way as material or created essences, such as humanity. Libiano's three humans, three persons analogy collapses at this point because it treats divine essence as if it were a repeatable property like humanity rather than what it truly is, the singular, non-instantiable act of being itself. For those who don't know, Libiano treat ousia as if it were a general class like humanity, and Father, Son, and Spirit are just three separate individuals participating in that class, like three humans sharing the human nature. From here, we move into the concept of physis, nature. In metaphysical terms, a nature determines the modal potentialities and operational capacities of a being. A human nature entails consciousness, embodiment, limitation. A divine nature entails omniscience, aseity, eternality, immutability. Nature is not just a list of functions. It is a domain of metaphysical reality that defines what one can do and be. Thus, a nature carries both actuality and possibility. Now, here's an important ontological contrast. The divine nature implies necessity de re. It must exist, while the human nature implies contingency de re. It might exist or not. This will become relevant when discussing the hypostatic union, how Christ bears both natures in one person. But for now, in this video, I should note that these natures are not mixed, but joined without confusion. This brings us to the term hypostasis, perhaps the most misused term in trinitarian debates. Hypostasis refers to an individuated, subsistent reality that bears relation without dividing essence. In the Trinity, each of the three hypostases, Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, is not a separate being or essence, but a distinct relation within the one divine essence. The distinction lies not in what they are, but in how they are. The Father unbegotten, the Son begotten, and the Spirit proceeding. This is what philosophers call relationes originis, relations of origin. These relations produce real distinction without implying ontological division. Thomas Aquinas formulates this brilliantly as a real relational distinction without division of essence. To visualize this, imagine someone claiming Muslims worship Muhammad because they say his name in daily prayers. That's absurd. Not because the name is said, but because it conflates categories. The Shahada invokes Muhammad's name not in worship, but as a prophetic confirmation. Similarly, critics of the Trinity often conflate relation with being. Saying the Son is distinct from the Father does not imply the Son is a different being. So at this point, the popular objection by Dawa guys, if the Son is begotten, then he is dependent, so he cannot be truly God, fails to distinguish the category of relation from that of being. The Son is not dependent in essence. He is eternally divine and shares in the full divine nature. His relation of origin is not a mark of lesser divinity. It is what distinguishes him as Son. For this objection to be successful, the Father and Son in the Trinity must be thought of as two separate beings with two separate essences. However, this would be a straw man argument. Now consider common objections like, if the divine nature is immortal, how did Jesus die? Or, if Jesus is one person and one person, the same subject, cannot be both mortal and immortal, then isn't the hypostatic union contradictory? As you just learned, these critiques confuse natures with persons. The person of the Son operates through two distinct natures, and the predicates of each nature apply to the one person in different ways. This is the communicatio idiomatum, the communication of properties. In Dr. Joshua Sijuwade's Advanced Metaphysical Framework, CTCM3, this is clarified by using modal logic and counterpart theory. Just as a single individual can appear in different possible worlds with different attributes, Christ operates in different modal domains. His divine nature cannot die, but his human nature can, and did. Yet the subject of both experiences is the same person. To summarize, ousia is indivisible essence, not instantiable, not shared among examples. Physis determines what one can do or be, modal capacities. Hypostasis is a relational identity bearer, not a separate being. The distinctions in the Trinity are relational, not ontological divisions. The objections collapse due to category errors, failing to distinguish between nature and person, fluid function and essence, relation and substance. Understanding these categories is not optional. It is foundational. Without them, you cannot even begin to engage objections. Worse, you risk adopting false contradictions. For theology to be coherent, it must first be metaphysically literate. In future segments, we will explore modal collapse, divine simplicity, and the metaphysical possibility of the incarnation in deeper detail. But for now, we lay the foundation. One essence, three hypostasis, no confusion, no division, just relational distinction in the one who simply is.